Today, we're going to talk about worthiness. And man, she's a doozy, isn't she? Worthiness. What do we even mean by that? Right? And it could take so many different applications, there's so many different contexts. So, this will certainly be a topic that gets re explored on our Tuesday sessions. Which, by the way, let me do like a more formal introduction. Let me try it on. Welcome to the Mindset Mastery class with your professor, me, Laura Catella. Today, we are diving into worthiness, which is a doozy, isn't it? Man, it encompasses a whole lot. So I have decided for today to take on the topic of worthiness in one fairly specific context, which I think will make it more actionable and leverageable and hopefully create a positive feedback loop for everybody who listens. And that is your contribution, by which I mean reasons why we as ambitious, high achieving people tend to discredit our contribution. We tend to silence or edit our voices for a host of different reasons. And I suspect that deep down you feel like that is not serving you and that is not the most empowering, adaptive principle, behavior, or practice to edit ourselves or to silence ourselves. So, over the next hour or so, we're going to dive into some reasons why and some actionable things you can do to stop discrediting your contribution, feel more worthy, feel more ready, and get to it. Sound good? I think it sounds pretty good. This is another session where I'll be reading from the heart. I say that because I have notes here, but really it's more riffing from the heart, and I may share my screen from time to time when appropriate. Who here has ever thought or said to themselves something along the lines of, I'm not ready for X, or I'll be ready when X, or once blank happens, then I can blank? Christy says almost every day. Lorraine, yes, I have. Yes, 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 yes. Yes, we do this, don't we? So in one way or another, we're telling ourselves we're not ready. We're not ready for blank. And that causes us to discount our potential contributions that we could be making if we felt ready and started doing whatever that blank is at the end of, I'm not ready because blank. Why do we do this? Before I get into why, I always want to address this meta principle. The why doesn't always matter, because you can instead decide, well, perhaps I'm not ready or perhaps I am, but I'm going to start to do this thing anyway. But understanding the why could be helpful to get you some clarity so you can realize the narrative that's going on in your head and begin to catch the narrative as it plays out in your head and begin to tell yourself another one. When we are in school, we take tests. We get a certain score on the tests, and based on that score, we are told we are ready. You can ascend to the next grade. You're ready now. You can have your diploma. You are ready now. You practice driving. You go take a test. You pass. They hand you your license. They say you can drive. You are ready now. In college, you earn a certain number of credits. They give you a diploma and say you are ready now. At a job, you work for a certain number of years. You hit some certain milestones, or you're just socially brilliant. And at a certain point in time, a boss says, here is your promotion. You are ready now. So there are many significant contexts in which we're trained to seek readiness, or the handing over of the title of readiness from someone else. But so many other situations in life do not work that way. If you want to write a book, nobody is going to come down on high and tell you you are ready to write the book. Now is the time. If you want to launch a premium offering, nobody is going to come down on high and tell you that you are ready. So there's a disconnect there. We're trained to seek the message. We're trained for someone else to say you are ready now. And yet, for all of your, I am not ready yet to blank, that message is never going to come down on high. But I'll indulge you. Okay, this is rare. I'm going to indulge every one of yours, but I'm not ready to blank. If true, what do you need to be ready? Specifically, what do you need? What is that thing that you believe you need in order to finally feel ready? If you have a super specific answer to that, you know what? Go get that thing then. If you need to be certified in something before you feel comfortable offering premium coaching services, go get the damn certification. If you need to hit a revenue tier before you feel ready to write a book on the subject, then figure out everything you need to do to hit that revenue tier. Because guess what? At least I'm getting you to do stuff. At least we're beginning to take action towards the I'm not ready to blank. What I suspect a lot of you may find as I indulge you is, oh, I don't have a specific thing. There is not a specific, I need to have blank in order to blank. Did you know that you can just wake up one day and decide to do the thing? For many of those, I'm not ready to blank, you can just wake up one day and decide to do the thing. We'll revisit that point in a little bit. Because there's an irony for most of this stuff. The irony is you will not realize how ready you are until you begin to do it. You will not realize that you are ready to contribute, that you are ready to start sharing content, that you are ready to lead and guide people until you start to lead and guide them, until you start to contribute, share your unique perspective, share what you have to say. It is only once you do that we start getting a positive feedback loop of, oh man, what I just wrote was pretty darn cool and it was good and I felt good doing it and I know it's going to be impactful and help others. I must be ready. So if we can create conscious awareness of this irony of, well, it's only through beginning to do what I don't feel ready to do that I'll actually start to feel ready to do it. You can become more powerful and you can start to do the thing versus the narrative and the negative feedback loop of I'm not ready, I'm not ready, I'm not ready. You sit and do nothing. That reinforces your feelings of not readiness, right? Because your body is following through on the story you've told yourself. Let your body, let your actions and your behavior begin to reinforce a different story. I'm not ready to go to the gym. And then you don't go to the gym. Well, of course you're not ready to go to the gym because you didn't go. But if you go, then you're like, I must be ready to go to the gym because I'm going. Another factor in this readiness and the reality that in many important contexts of life, somebody else deemed us ready that we need to realize is, and this is something I learned from one of my incredible mentors, Dan Nicholson, generally, consensus comes last. Consensus is something you should be seeking last the majority of the time. And I'm going to show you this to help illustrate this point. Let me share my screen. Okay. You can see this is from my notes, and I'm going to talk a little bit about these notes here towards the end of class. Who here, now I need to bring the chat back up, has seen this curve before? This curve has a handful of different names: diffusion of innovation, diffusion of technology, product adoption curve. The name does not matter. For whatever it is you have been feeling, I'm not ready to blank, you're probably over here because you want to innovate on something in some way. You want to create something. You want to innovate. You are waiting for approval from people who are going to be over here. That doesn't make sense. They are not here. So in this context, they are not going to give you the approval that you are seeking. In this context, their consensus, their adoption, their validation, their enrollment comes last. Now, there's certain contexts of life where you will be over here. As an example, the one I cite in my notes, and again, that's called the diffusion of innovation curve, and I haven't heard anybody really discuss it in this way. In certain contexts of life, you will be at the end. You might be a late adopter to crypto or intermittent fasting or whatever. And that's totally okay. As an example, when cameras first got like attached to cell phones, back when we still had flip phones and like you could take a crude like 1 megapixel photo, I thought it was the dumbest idea. I was like, that's never gonna stick. Can you believe it? I was entirely not in the innovation camp, and I was dead wrong. So often, you may be seeking or waiting for consensus for people who are in totally the wrong category, for people who are the me when it came to the cell phone camera. And that is shooting you in the foot. For your own creations, for the areas in which you are an innovator, remember that consensus, especially from the masses, comes last. And consensus, especially from your family, the people who understand you in one very specific sort of way, their consensus will generally come last. Because they understand you to be and to operate and to have and to do certain things. And when you innovate, they're over here. They're at the end of the curve. So they're not your innovators. They're not your co-innovators with you. Is understanding that helpful? Their consensus comes last. For your creations, you are in the innovator category. Stop looking to the people who are most likely going to be late majority and laggards to enroll in your mission. Their consensus comes last. So that summarizes a lot of what's going on with the I'm not ready yet. And for that reason, you discredit your contribution before you even contribute. You shoot yourself in the foot, you don't even start. And you lack the feeling of worthiness to contribute. Another reason you may feel not ready to contribute, or you may feel not worthy to contribute. Whoever thinks this, whoever thinks stuff like, why me? Well, why me to talk about that? I don't have anything unique to say. Well, why me? Other people have more experience than me. Well, why me? Other people share so much and are so loud on this topic. Why would anybody listen to me? Why should I do it? Who thinks anything like that? Brandy, I don't know enough. I don't know enough. Brandy, do you have your camera on? I can't see everybody in the feed. I want to ask you a question. And if you can only answer in the chat, that's fine. Answer it in the chat. And I want everybody to pay attention to this question. I suspect Mary knows something along the lines of what it's going to be. Maybe Carolyn too. Brandy, how will you know when you know enough? How will you know when you know enough? Reflect on that. Because the I don't know enough is a narrative, right? So when is the switch going to flip? When are you magically going to feel like you know enough? And if you have a specific answer to that, by all means, do the thing that will flip the switch and get you to feel like you'll know enough. But there's the irony. There's the negative feedback loop and positive feedback loop irony here. Because it is only through doing that you will begin to feel like, oh yes, maybe I'm starting to know enough. Matt, I saw you say you'll never forget my answer to this. Can you unmute and tell the group about that?
Are we allowed to swear on this channel?
Yes, of course we are.
You had helped me get a project, and I was feeling unconfident about actually delivering on the project. And then I said some version of why me? Why should I be the one to do this project? And you shouted my name in all caps and then said, shut the fuck up. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I did the project and it was great.
Thank you.
But I actually I hear that every time I start asking that in my head, I hear your voice saying, shut the fuck up. And then I just do it. Well, sometimes I just do it. I'm still working on it, but I still hear it.
Good. If that's what anybody can take that, I'll say it. Shut the fuck up. There you go. And now you can echo that in your head when you need to. And that is just simply a device in breaking the automation of your storytelling and your narratives. Because that's all it is. Oh, Bobby, I love that. Bobby, shut the fuck up are 6 words. So you think, why me? Others have more experience. Others are louder. I have nothing unique to say. I will indulge you again. Again. You want to be unique, huh? You want to say something unique, huh? Guess what? For anything you say, any string of sentences that you put together in writing or in video, any type of painting you do, any graphic you create, any dance you do will be unique. Logically, it can't not be unique. It will never be a carbon copy of something else. And I'm not talking to plagiarists or thieves here. I'm not talking to people who copy and paste or steal word for word what somebody else says, so we don't have to worry about those outliers. I'm talking to people who want to ascend, who want to create, who want to lead. Therefore, by you taking the action to create the thing, it will always be unique because only you will synthesize information through your unique perspective for your unique reasons and have that directed towards your unique purpose. Those are 3 very powerful filters that nobody else on the planet will match as a carbon copy of yours, ever. So even if some of the material has been common, has been heard before, so what? So is mine. So is mine. What am I doing in this class? I'm telling you to shed the feelings of not being ready and go do something. That's not original. Other people have said that shit before, right? But nobody is doing it through my perspective, for my reasons, and for my purpose. So it is inevitably unique, and nobody else is doing it with my energy, my enthusiasm, all of that. So it's so uniquely beautiful. And you have been hampering it. You've been shutting it down. You have been killing it before it even gets the chance to be alive with this silly, maladaptive question of why me? No more, because you have these 3 unique, at least, it's way more than 3, but at least 3 unique blends, ingredients in the recipe that make it unique. You want to do it. Whatever it is you've been holding yourself back from sharing or creating is something you want to do, right? Believe me, the point is not for me to yell at you to do things you don't want to do. The point is I am yelling at you to do things you want to do. The fact that you want to do them is unique, powerful, and divine. It's divine because nobody else wants what you want for the same reasons and to have the same outcome that you want. It's like a fingerprint. Here's an example in my life. So in building Diamond Day, which are my live mastermind events, educational courses, coaching programs, I realize that 3 fundamental ingredients in Diamond Day are connection, vulnerability. So connection breeds the safety for all of us to become vulnerable with one another, roll on our backs, expose the underbelly. And accountability, the third, so that everybody who participates understands that they won't be abandoned. You can roll over, show me your underbelly, and I will not abandon you. I will stick with you. I will accept you. I will help you through it. And the whole community does that with each other. Community, connection, vulnerability, accountability. These are the 3 things I wanted my whole life. These are the things I wanted from my parents. They're the things I wanted in every single relationship I've been in. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, no wonder I'm making this. It's obvious. But guess what? I didn't know that when I started. That's a gift of hindsight. So it's another modicum of encouragement from me for you guys to get started so that you can look back and have that gift of hindsight and see, oh, those are some of the reasons why this is part of my purpose and why this is unique to me and why this is what I want to do. So the more you start making and creating what you are called to make and create, you'll get that gift too. Your own through lines will become more and more apparent. And your desires for what you want to create, there's probably an element of whatever wounds you have, right? We tend to want to learn and then also teach the things that help us fix our wounds. That's beautiful. Because that is also part of what makes it so uniquely you. Your wounds, some of the reasons you may tell yourself, well, I'm not ready because X, or I'm not worthy because X, these wounds, they're not a shortcoming. They are part of what make you uniquely suited to fulfill that purpose. Your wounds. Not even just the way you begin to heal them, but because you had them. They're part of your unique recipe. And you could put every wound, every story, every narrative into, you have choices. Here are 2. You can put them into your tank, fuel, energy, or you can put them into your trunk, baggage, weight, trash that you carry around. You have a choice. Sometimes shit is really hard to deal with, and it's a difficult choice to make. And every piece of your programming, your history, and your own seeking of comfort to just shove it down, ignore it, get rid of it, and put it in the trunk. I understand the deep and very often subconscious pull to make that decision, but you have a choice. And sometimes it takes a period of rest. And then you could turn and say, okay, I'm putting this into my tank. I am using this as fuel because this pain, or if it's tension, or if it's doubt, is still all part of what makes you uniquely suited to fulfill that purpose. So you have a choice at every single moment. Am I putting it in the tank, or am I putting it in the trunk? And it's all unique. Nobody's going to have the same fuel makeup of all the stuff they put in there as you. The more you put in your tank, the more you have to contribute. The more you contribute, the more you realize, oh, I am ready to contribute. So everything is meant to create a cascading effect. One feeds the other. Why me? I don't know enough yet. Other people are louder than me. Other people have more experience. I will give you a tactical exercise. I did it this morning. I eat the dog food. Why me? Why me is your question. Okay, let's answer it. Why me? Why me? Why you to write the book you want to write? Why you to start the podcast that you want to start? All right, make a damn list. Keep it alive. I did one. Why me? To host these Tuesday calls. And guess what? Some of the most important ones, yeah, I could credentialize myself. Yeah, I've learned a lot of shit. But the most important ones, really? Really, why me? I want to. Because I want to. Because again, when you want something, it is unique to you, it's powerful, and it's divine. And it means you're gonna take the knocks on the chin that will inevitably come. If you are in pursuit of something that you don't really want, you get a knock on the chin, what are you gonna do? You're gonna fall down and you're gonna stay down for as long as possible because you don't really wanna pursue it anyway. But when you do want something and you take a knock on the chin, you're way more likely to get up much faster because you're pursuing the thing that you really want. So never forget that very, very important reason. I want to. I care. I'm doing it because I care about it. Don't forget those reasons. When you create your why me? If you're about to get on a call for a big gig, you're a little bit nervous, pull out the sheet of paper or open a Google Doc so that you can really keep that document alive and access it whenever you need. Why you? Why you for the gig? And I don't mean that. It's not a resume, right? It is not a resume. It's more character-based. It's more energetic. It's meant to fuel you, it's meant to fuel you, not credentialize yourself to the person at the other end. Does that make sense? Can we commit to actually doing that? Because I know we love the dopamine of Laura yelling at us, fueling us up. But dopamine is a short-lived molecule, unfortunately. It will not last, especially when you need it the most. It won't be there. But when you do the work, you get some serotonin, it lasts longer. Okay? So you have to do some of that extra work. So the why me. Prioritizing uniqueness, by the way, I have nothing unique to say, but we just concluded, I indulged you, and we concluded that it will be unique. You just have to start making it. If it never exists, I guess I can't say it's unique. But as soon as it exists, it does. But prioritizing uniqueness, ask yourself this. Well, do I want to be unique? Or do I want to be useful? Do I want to break the mold of what a sales letter looks like? Or do I want to write the most effective sales letter ever? Do I want to break the mold of anything, of what books are? And maybe you do. And like in some contexts, that's totally okay. Because if that's your own natural motivation and you see the path and you want to do something totally weird and break it, of course, by all means, do it. But if it's the, I have nothing unique to say that's holding you back, in that situation, ask yourself, well, do I want to be unique or do I want to be useful? People have told me, Laura, you're like a broken record. It made me feel some type of way at first, and then I realized, wait, that means they remember the shit I say. That means I'm making an impact. They're starting to get it. Thank God. Become redundant of your own shit. You know how many times people need to hear something before it even begins to create a shift. So be redundant. Understand what you're shooting for and optimize for that. If you're optimizing for usefulness or to motivate people or to educate, don't worry about uniqueness. Uniqueness does not guarantee that you will be useful. It does not guarantee that you will motivate people, and it does not guarantee that you will educate them. So understand what you're shooting for and optimize for that. Stop telling yourself the unique story and move on. Another reason we tend to feel unworthy and we tend to discredit our contributions. Ego, irony. I'm calling it your ironic ego. And here's how it's so ironic. Because we have fear over rejection, being ignored, or being wrong, right? Who here has ever kept themselves quiet because they didn't want to be rejected or they didn't want to be wrong? Who here has not put themselves out there because they didn't want to be rejected or ignored or be wrong? Yeah, we all do that. We all do it. It's normal and it's natural. And that is all ego. That is the ego trying to protect itself so that you don't have to take the ego blow of being rejected, being ignored, or being wrong. But the irony is that it's holding you back. So it doesn't let you step up in your confidence, in your marketplace, so that you could get an even bigger ego out of it. It actually forces itself to stay the same size when you do that. That's another negative feedback loop, right? And here's the fact of the matter. We're afraid of being rejected, being ignored, or being wrong. But here are the facts. You will be rejected. It's a fact. In fact, we looked at the curve, right? We looked at the curve. So it's a requirement. It is a requirement that you are rejected. Because if you're in the innovator camp, you will inevitably encounter people down here on the curve, and they will reject you. It's totally fine. So can we flip it from I'm afraid to be rejected to I must be rejected? I have to tick off the box of rejection to prove that I am innovating and I'm creating the thing I want to create and I'm sharing the thing that I want to share. You must be rejected. It is a requirement. It is not something to be afraid of anymore. You're afraid of being ignored. You will be ignored. You absolutely 100% will be ignored. I'm ignored all the time. A lot. Why do you think I keep yelling louder and louder and louder? I am ignored. That gives you more power, because if you're not able to say the things you want to say, do the things that you want to do when nobody is watching, how will you do it when they are watching? How? And when they're rejecting you and criticizing you, how? So you have a huge opportunity to say what you want to say, contribute in the way that you want to contribute while you're being ignored. It will happen, and it's wonderful. And every response is a data point. It's information. So you contribute something and it gets zero response. A little ego ding. Yes, sure, fine, I get it. The point is not to say that your ego doesn't exist and we live in a fantasy fairy world where that doesn't affect you. That would be short-sighted in my opinion. But you can also say, oh, hey, okay, great, I have information now. I put something out there and I was ignored. Now I know it didn't hit. It didn't resonate. How do I modify? How do I iterate? What might I change next time? But if you never put out the thing, then you never get that data. Negative feedback loop, you are stuck. We will not be stuck anymore. We will not discredit our contribution. We will make the contribution and see what happens. Plus, it's probably worth noting, you may feel ignored, But that doesn't mean you are ignored. Because there's a lot of people who absorb our content and the things that we have to say who do not interact with it. So you simply do not know. And it is through your consistency that those people will finally come out of the woodwork and interact with you. Oh, I've been following you for a long time. But that only happens if you're doing the thing. If you're not doing it, how would that ever occur? And Annette says, there's also the illusion of having one opportunity only. It's so divine and timely that you said that. Thank you for contributing that. Because I was talking with Whitney, I don't know if she's on, one of my coaching clients, and we're devising some strategies for her to generate more inbound lead flow. And I'm looking through her copy for it. And I start to discuss with her what we're going to do after this one. We're going to do this first. What are we going to do next? Because so often people make the mistake of, I'm going to make this offering one time. And if nobody responds, then they don't do anything else for like 6 months. Without realizing, oh, wait, it's possible. Maybe only like 20 people saw it the first time. So you have to do it again. And of those 20 people, of course, most aren't going to be a fit. And maybe some of the ones who were just busy in that moment. So of course you have to do it again. So when you're iterating and you're planning, okay, here's the first offering I'm going to make. Here's the first post I'm going to put out. Do yourself a favor and think ahead to the next 3 or the next 4 that you're also going to do. That insulates you as well from putting too much emphasis on the result of your very first contribution or your very first offering. Because no matter what that first one is, you know what you're going to do second and what you're going to do third. You're afraid of being wrong. Somebody asks a question at like a conference or whatever, and you know the answer, but you don't say anything because you don't want to be wrong in front of a group of people. You will be wrong. Of course, we're all wrong sometimes. Can we value making the contribution more than we value being right? Because consider this, if somebody tries in earnest to help you with something, how much do you care if they're technically right or technically wrong? What matters to you is that they've stepped up in earnest and tried to help, right? Can you begin to give that contribution to others? And there is some language you could use to hedge it. You could very easily say, I might be wrong, but, and then contribute anyway. Now, you don't get to use that as a black and white dichotomous bullshit line that you always include. Because if you always say, I might be wrong, it's a little bit weak energy. Reserve it for the times where, yeah, you really might be wrong. But there are also a ton of times where you might not be wrong and you don't need to say it. But what's most important is the consistent bicep curl of making the contribution. Yes, Matt, we're trained that we have to get the right answer to get the validation to prove that we are ready for something. And we have to get enough right answers over and over and over again. But so much of the real world is not right, wrong. It's not black, white. Nearly everything depends. So again, just like uniqueness, are we prioritizing being right, or are we prioritizing being useful, being helpful? There are a lot of theoretical things where there's some sort of right answer. But in practicality, in the real world, those right answers do not work out. It doesn't work out that way. So the more and more we practice and the more and more we get accustomed to, I want to be useful instead of being right, the more it frees us up to continue to contribute without the weighing down, the weight on our ankles in the water of being afraid of being wrong. And I was like a 4.3 GPA student in high school, so I get it. This is shit that, like, this is dog food I have to eat every single day. I want to be right. And a lot of I still do it. I'm not coming down on high. And a lot of my posts, they get convoluted because I'm trying to address every possibility. I'm like, well, it may be this in this case, and it may be that. So I could protect myself from being wrong. So I have to like chop that away and tell myself, if I was being as useful as I can, what would I say? And say that. That's all the ego. That's all the ego, right? I have to be right. I have to appear right. I cannot be ignored. I cannot be wrong. I cannot be rejected. That is all the ego. So I have a question for you to put in your database here of things you ask. Questions Laura tells me to ask myself regularly. Part 360 fucking 9. Is my ego in the way? Is my ego in the way? I want to contribute. I want to say this thing. I'm afraid of being wrong. I'm afraid of being rejected. My ego is in the way. Can I circumvent him? Can I circumvent her? I know he's trying to help me, but he's not. Can I circumvent him? Can I move past him? Is my ego in the way? Annette says, I also caught myself protecting an image I thought others have of me, even though it's not my true image, my true me. Bingo. Thank you for contributing that as well. That's part of the imposter syndrome thing that I don't hear many people talk about. See, the imposter syndrome thing is I'm afraid, it tends to go something like this. I'm afraid of other people realizing that I'm a fraud in some way. It may not be that deep down you feel like a fraud. You just don't want other people to somehow come to the conclusion that you are a fraud. So that's all that ego self-image stuff. If you're not scamming and being fraudulent to people, they probably won't think you're a fraud. So just maintain your integrity, which I don't need to harp on too much for the people on this call because we're not thieves and we're not frauds. And the truth of the matter is we don't even really know what the image other people have of us is. They see such a small facet of us, and that's what they take, that's what they leave, that's what they filter through their own lenses, perspectives, and experiences. And that is going to happen no matter what you do. Does it make any sense then to continue to discredit your contribution in that case? No. And now we move to the topic of unworthiness, perhaps a little more globally and a little bit more of an expanded way. Because if you say, well, I'm not worthy to receive this, or, why should I contribute? It might make sense that you feel that way. I'll indulge you again. You get 3 indulgences from me today. This is a pretty lucky call for everyone. So rare. You're one of 8 billion people. 8 billion. Sounds like a large number. Yep, I get it. You're a meat sack with legs. Yep, true. I get it. You're a monkey that knows how to drive. Yep, true. I get it. So for those reasons, you may feel unworthy, unspecial. That's a doozy too, right? A cosmic speck of dust, unworthy, unspecial. It's a doozy. And on top of that, you have been hurt. You have failed before. You have hurt others. You have made mistakes. You have messed up. Other people have cautioned you against pursuing your dreams. Some may have even shat on them directly. You can't do that. People like us don't do that. We go get a job. We do things like that instead. We play it safe. But the truth is, another truth, in conjunction with the truth that you are one of 8 billion people, another truth is the most unlikely thing in life is life. The most unlikely thing in life is life. The odds of being alive, according to scientists, are 1 times 10 to the 2,685,000th power. I think I'm gonna either paint myself or design a print of that gigantic number. 1 times 10 to the 2 million, I can't even say it, 685,000th power. It's a number so big, our brains cannot even fully conceptualize the scale of it. For comparison, the amount of atoms in the universe, according to scientists, is 1 times 10 to the 80th power. 80th versus 2,685,000th power. The most unlikely thing in life is life, yet here you are, alive. Yet here you are, alive. You know what this means. You are lucky by birthright. Baby, you are born lucky. You are experiencing the most unlikely phenomenon that we know of right now. Does it make any sense for you to continue to tell yourself, I'm not worthy, I'm not ready? You're born worthy. You're born lucky, and you are born ready. 1 times 10 to the 2,685,000th power. The most unlikely thing in life is life, yet here you are alive. That gets me going. The numbers are completely incredible. I'm truly gonna design a print for that and put it on my wall so that I can see it every day. I encourage you to do the same, and you don't have to get fancy with it. You just write it down, print it out. So you could look at it and say, holy shit, I'm experiencing the most unlikely phenomenon that we know of in existence. Can I stop the narratives that have been holding me back from what I want now? And can I start stepping towards it now? I hope so. Yeah, I don't know how we type 2 million zeros. Maybe Chat GPT can do it. You are brilliant. You're brilliant. You're already brilliant. You have been brilliant at stopping yourself and telling yourself stories to hold you back for all those reasons that we've described so far. I'm not ready because of this. I don't know enough because of that. I can't be wrong because of this. You're brilliant. Those are brilliant. That's mental gymnastics. You're so good. It's so ingrained in you. It's a talent that you have naturally. You've cultivated it naturally over all of these years. Can you begin to simply catch yourself when you're doing that and say, ooh, I'm telling myself a brilliant story right now. I'm doing brilliant mental gymnastics right now. Can I flip them? Can I flip and use that same brilliance to convince myself to take action towards what I want, to feel worthy and to feel ready? Can I use my brilliance to remind myself that the most unlikely thing is life, and yet here I am alive, and start to contribute without discrediting your contribution before it even exists? Because you are already brilliant. We are not tapping into new brilliance. Instead, let's try redeploying the brilliance you already have into something that serves you, that is empowering and that is adaptive and creates a positive feedback loop. Can we? Confirm, declare in the chat if you can begin to do this. If you could use the same brilliance and the same mental gymnastics that you use to tell yourself no and start to use them to tell yourself yes. Because the mere act, there are layers, there are steps. It takes time. How much time? I don't know. It depends on you. It could happen quickly. It could happen slowly. But there's steps. The mere act of catching yourself when you're being brilliant and telling yourself reasons no, even catching that, even doing less of that would be a huge win. In our coaching programs, we always look to the via negativa concept, right? Instead of piling on more, well, what could I do less of? Doing less of that would be a huge win. And then, okay, can I give myself a positive narrative instead? Can I use my brilliance to tell myself an empowering story instead? That's the next step. But if you simply quieted all of the reasons why you shouldn't, what are you left with? More power, more motivation, more clarity to start to do the things you want to do, to start to contribute in the ways that you want to contribute. It's a choice. You always have the choice. The choice is always yours. And everything we've discussed encapsulates a desire, a carnal human desire to maintain the status quo, right? You want to maintain. I don't want to, put myself out there. I don't want to contribute because in one way or another, doing so will begin to change the status quo. It's a risk. It's something I haven't done before. So as I repeat, as I play the broken record side of Laura, how do we gradually alter that status quo? How do we gradually begin to make the unknown known? Where you go from not contributing in the way you want to gradually contributing in the way that you do want to. So the mantra I offer to you today, the mindset mantra in Mindset Mastery Class. I don't discount my contribution. I don't discount my contribution. No more of that. Because remember, you could just wake up one day and decide to do it. You could wake up right now on this call and decide to contribute and decide to open up, unlock a little bit more of yourself to contribute in the way that you want to contribute. I'm going to show you a powerful example of something. Let me share my screen one more time. You guys see it? We all know this painting, yes? Van Gogh's Starry Night. Did you know that he hated this painting when he was done? He would have painted over it if he had more time. He thought it was a failure. He wrote to, I'm pretty sure that's his brother, Theo. All in all, the only things I consider a little good in it are the wheat field, the mountain, the orchid, the olive trees with the blue hills, and the portrait and the entrance to the quarry, and the rest says nothing to me. One of the most iconic and beloved paintings of all time. He hated it. And yeah, he was a bit of a crazy artist, right? So I get it. But he discounted his contribution. He had no idea the impacts that piece would have. How often do you do that? But for those who have not gotten into the habit of releasing their contributions regularly, you're a bit worse off, aren't you? Because at least Van Gogh created the thing. So he's able to get the feedback he didn't expect. A lot of it after he was dead, but what are you going to do? So at least get into the habit of creating the thing and making the contribution. And if that resonates with you, if that unlocks something with you, if it's inspirational in any way, then go on and get a print of the Starry Night and put it on your wall so you can remember that. Man, I can't believe Van Gogh hated that. And it ended up being one of the most iconic paintings in the whole wide world. Oh, I have one other thing to share too. So I will share one more time. Brandy, it's behind you. That's awesome. I grew up with a print of it. My mom had a print of it. And I remember as a child staring at it. And it captivated me. One other thing to share, another story. Who is this guy? We recognize him. It's a young Tony Robbins in a small room leading one of his first fire walking events. Can you imagine? There are probably so many people who brag, I saw Tony when he was young. I listened to Tony before he got big. I got to be in a room with him 15 years ago. That could be you. People could have that same experience with you. I learned from Matt 10 years ago. Wow, look at him now. Of course, there's a requirement there. You have to put yourself out there. You got to contribute. You can't stay quiet forever, or else nobody will have the pleasure of being able to say, I learned from so-and-so 10 years ago. And that's Metallica early on. Oh man, I listened to Metallica when they first were getting started. It was this small, shitty venue in a basement. I saw them. People could be saying that about you if you are contributing and if you're putting yourself out there. And one more time to bring back the unique thing. Is he breaking the damn mold? Is he saying any laws of physics that have never been proven or demonstrated or theorized before? No. How many musical songs have such similar riffs or the exact same riffs? You're sitting in a chair. How many damn designs of chairs exist? I got a cup, I got a brush, I got a phone, I got a pen. You could look at everything and everything. How many iterations of that thing exist? And yet, there are people sitting there right now, toiling, designing, writing another version of a song, designing another version of a chair, because they want to. So you can do the same. But it can only be you if you start out, if you take the steps to do that. Gets me going. This shit gets me going. Makes me want to contribute more. So your time is now. Quite literally. What time is it? I don't know. It's now. It's always now. Why wait? Why wait? I have a few concluding thoughts to summarize some of what I had the privilege and honor of discussing with you today to help, hopefully help your synthesis of all of this stuff. One, the new mantra, just one, I don't discredit my contribution. We're going to do less discrediting of our contribution before it even exists. We will do less of that. So anytime you're like, oh, God, I'm going to say something. No, wait. I don't want to be wrong. Somebody else already commented something similar. I don't discredit my contribution. Make the contribution. The most unlikely thing in life is life. So why wait? You are born lucky. The most unlikely thing in life is life. Tank or trunk? Where will you put it? Where will you put the wounds? The things that you think make you ill-suited to do the thing are actually the divine things that make you uniquely, unarguably suited to do the thing. So where will you put those wounds, that pain, the shitty stuff that happens? Is it going in the tank or is it going in the trunk? You have a choice. Remember also, consensus comes last. Consensus comes last. For the things that you're innovating on, don't look to a late adopter and hope that they're going to approve it for you. They're not meant to. Do I want to be unique or do I want to be useful? Remember that. What small steps will you take to gradually make the unknown of regular contribution, of putting yourself out there publicly, of making bigger, bolder offerings? What steps can you take to gradually make that unknown known? Is my ego in the way? Is my ego in the way? Can I move around it? And what time is it? It's now. That's what time it is. It's always now. It's beautiful. It's awesome that it works out that way. Boom, an hour and 3 minutes. I list stuff out, right, that I want to discuss. And I just feel, I'm like, it feels like it's done there. I'm never thinking about the time. Is it going to go over? Is it going to be under? And so far, we're 4 for 4 with the content perfectly filling the time. Parkinson's law. We know this. Yes? Those who have joined me before know. Gas in a container fills the container. The work will fill the time. Everything fills the container that it is in. Thank you guys for your attention, for listening,